ask our speakers to give up their responses or additional reflections, a few minutes each. But if we have time and some people want to speak after that, we can certainly accommodate that. So can we ask our speakers to add to what they have said? Right?
I just want to give you a story. No, it may not be story. I'm trying to summarize Obama and Kim Jong-il. I think that these are two guys confrontation, but they have now fallen into the same trap. So I said it's the trap of Obama and Kim Jong-il. Maybe you think that it's very confused. Let me tell you why I summarize the trouble of both put together. If you upgrade, it's more easy. Because if you succeeded in upgrading your economy, you have to transfer out the whole of the cost to others, and then you upgrade. But if you downgrade, it's more difficult. So when Obama said they can make change, means that they have fallen into the trap. He cannot make change because the whole of U.S. has upgraded the economic structure into the financial sector. They change back to the physical industrial production, no way. The same, when you talk about North Korea, you think that they got very serious hunger, this famine. By what? By they upgrade their agriculture into machinery agriculture in the mountain area. Because the Soviet Union facilitates a lot of tractors and oil for machinery, modernized agriculture. And then they don't need so many labor in agriculture production. So they increase the urbanization. 70% of people live in urban area. And then suddenly, no tractor, no oil. They block after Soviet Union collapse. That is 1992. And then at least 1/3 of the arable land cannot plow because no tractor. Because you have sent your people to the urban area. Nobody can come back. So Kim Jong-il also cannot make change. So do you think that he can ask these citizens, volunteers, go back to countryside to plow the land, use hands? They even have no tool because the tractor is there. They don't need to use a very simple tool to plow the arable land. So that is why there is a very serious famine. And think about another thing. The harvest lost in North Korea, 38%. Means more than 1/3 of the products, even they produce something, lost in the field. Why? Because you enforce citizens go back to the arable land to use your hands to cut the rice. They just cut the head of the rice. If you're a peasant, if you're a farmer, you fold your body to cut at the roof. But now if you're a citizen, you just cut the head. And then you threw this head in the map. Certainly the harvest loss is very much high, 38%. So that is any country, no matter in whatever ism, in socialism, capitalism, whatever isms, if you upgrade, you cannot downgrade. So that is the trap for both sides, even they have a very serious confrontation. This is Obama, Kim Jong-il trap, the same. Thank you.
Sam, you want to go? Should we have the same order? Up to you.
Professor, when you do land reform, you can downgrade after land reform.
Land reform is downgrade.
Yes, it's like, for instance,
linking from the urban modernization
Yeah.
to make your peasants, your farmers go back to tradition.
You get it, like in Zimbabwe. You had these big farms, alienated, landless people, redistribution massive, and urban people, jobs are lost from a period before. The technology has totally changed. It's possible to restructure through a certain kind of a land form, but of course it can't be done within 1 decade. It's quite a long process. So this is why even the education, your points I think are really the question, because the whole education system, the media, they don't project the type of values that we're talking about. So I would take that as a serious point. The gender and inequality. Sorry if we implied an ideal family situation, but I think that the principles in this family, the type of principles in are not the private property relationship. Although there is an exploitative relationship, a hierarchy, not even only by gender, by age even. Within that property, that it's a social relation, property relation. It's socialized to some degree, but it's exploited. But it shows the possibilities of protecting. Of course, capital can run roughshod over it. Okay, so the property relation is a key element, I think, in opening up the space for an alternative type of property relation. That's why I think one of the solutions has to be blocking further privatization of all of these resources and returning to public property and the new systems of management. Yeah. Yes, about money, that is what we're talking about, financialization. Because it's no more money as we knew it before in the capital, as we understood it. It's just money plus money. It's feeling, I don't know what happened to my, yeah. So I think that the core of the problem is about the financialization, and it's about the fact that probably a small number of individuals and companies decide what the questions you ask. They are being decided by a bundle, a few people, the big people that control the local finance capital. So when this system is out of control, okay, so it raises the question of whether we can make the territorial comparison, US, Europe, China, because they have a control system that can go over and above its boundaries. Thank you. Yeah.
Bueno, yo quisiera referirme a los comentarios tanto de la persona de Hong Kong y también de Israel de Filipinas. Y una de las cosas importantes, y precisamente me quiero referir a esta idea del valor precioso de vivir con la naturaleza y lo que significa estar en Hong Kong. Y me quiero referir a eso porque me parece algo como muy importante y muy fundamental. El estar en una situación extrema, parece extrema, ¿verdad? Como hemos perdido en una ciudad tan grande el contacto quizás con la naturaleza que consideramos pues es el campo. ¿verdad? Consideramos las montañas, los lagos, los ríos. Pero yo pienso que la naturaleza somos nosotros. Podemos descubrir en nosotras y nosotros esa vitalidad, el contacto con esa naturaleza, ¿verdad? Esa vitalidad histórica, y considerarnos dueños de nosotras y de nosotros mismos. Y esa apropiación de nosotras y de nosotros nos hace posible tener como la energía de nosotros. Y esto parece como un pequeño discurso, pero que en un sentido yo descubrí esto en una situación extrema. Es decir, yo estuve en un momento en una cárcel de alta seguridad. Y en un momento ahí, en esas cárceles donde estás aislado de todo, me di cuenta de lo grande que es el universo y de lo grande que existe en mí como libertad. Y entendí la posibilidad de ser libre aún estando en la cárcel. Y como una forma de expresión que yo siento que necesitamos, ¿verdad? Descubrir eso adentro de nosotros. Ahora, en relación a lo de Isagami, yo considero que es un cuestionamiento muy importante, muy profundo, pero que en realidad eso nos lleva a la necesidad diríamos, de entender los pasos fundamentales y el equilibrio, ¿verdad? Porque no podemos leer libros toda la vida, ni viajar toda la vida, ni estar en consumo toda la vida, sino que necesitamos producir, ¿verdad? E instrumentar esos recursos y convertirnos en esa relación, acción y reflexión, práctica y estudio. Pero también en un sentido más allá es como imaginar la posibilidad en nosotras y en nosotros de salir de los espacios que no nos permiten una integralidad. Solamente.
Well, I think the person that I wanted to answer the question, Moses, are now gone to sleep. So, oh no. Hi. Look, I think when we talk about feminism, it's very important to keep in mind that there are at least 6 different models, versions of feminism: radical feminism, Marxist feminism, post-structural feminism, cultural feminism, ecological feminism, and so on and so on. And each of them has different implications, different political implications and leanings, and each offers different tools which are useful in different contexts. So it's really important to keep that in mind. And some feminisms put more emphasis on the equality principle, and some put more emphasis on the principle of difference. But I think all feminists understand that men and women inside themselves have both masculine and feminine capacities and attributes, and the kind of world that feminists want and envision for the future is where all people can access all of those parts of themselves, so that we're not just fixed in 2 separate models, 2 separate patterns. The question about how do we get people to acknowledge, to recognize that they are in fact part of nature, that they are nature in embodied form. Look, it's going to take, it's like 2,000-3,000 years of undoing. So it's not going to happen quickly, but I think we do it in our teaching, we do it in our environmental activism. I think in moments of crisis, like the climate crisis, or struggles over forests, or to prevent dams and so on, people begin to have insights to that connection. So it's slow, but it's something to keep talking about and to keep challenging the discourses. You notice a lot of my work is challenging academic discourses to break the conventions of thinking down. So there are many opportunities for working on this. And finally, on the question of living well, when I use that term, I really use it not as an Australian talking about the Australian lifestyle, in case that was misunderstood by anybody. I'm using it in the sense in which I think it was forged at Cochabamba in April 2010. And I don't see it as culturally distinct. I see it as a universal. I see what comprises a life of living well is really pretty much the same in every culture, and that the culture allows for the meeting of individual needs, of communal sharing, and of protecting nature outside of our bodies as well. And I unlike our mediator, I think that the question of living well, the phrase living well, already answers the question of what kind of society do we want. I mean, I came here thinking that we all more or less would agree with that. But perhaps we leave here agreeing with that. Thank you.
I have two thoughts to share with you. One is that based on what I have been listening to, it seems that we are living in a kind of a predicament in modernity, because it's specifically referring to Professor Wen's argument he just put forward as with the downgrading and the impossibility of downgrading. And once you upgrade it, you cannot be downgraded. So it seems to me that we are implying that urbanization or modern urbanization and the capitalistic mode of life are more desirable or more preferred than the life closer to nature. It seems to me something like that. But I totally agree with you in pointing that out. The second thought that I would like to say is it seems to me that there are some characteristics of human society or of human beings themselves that are against sustainability. The very concrete example, you may say that this is only a small example in our human life, that is elitist art. For instance, European classical music. I mean, the pursuit for artistic achievement is anti-sustainability and anti-eco. For instance, for the pursuit of a certain concept of sound, in the making of European musical instruments, for instance, the flute, in the mid-19th century, so they discovered that, okay, using precious metal to make the flute, you have to, or better sound than the wooden flute. And then they proceeded from silver to 14-karat gold. Now they have 24-karat gold flutes. And all the young teenage Korean flute players, they all use the 24-karat gold flute. I mean, the processing of gold is more polluting than silver, and then more polluting than wood. And in terms of wood, I mean, a lot of African black wood has been cut down to produce oboes and clarinets. And we are destroying the environment because of the pursuit for artistic excellence. So how are we going to deal with that paradox? Or am I saying something that is nonsense? Or please enlighten me.
Okay, since we're coming to an end, I'm glad that when pointed out to us and brought to our attention the enormous task of transforming. I wouldn't call it, he called it downgrading, and I would call it transforming also, which is true, absolutely true. But at the same time, do we have a choice? Can we be sustainable without downgrading or without transforming? I don't know. Can we create a sustainable world without well, I don't know what term, downgrading? I mean, that's the challenge. The example of North Korea, well, yes, the Soviet Union withdrew oil and tractors. Soviet Union also had withdrew oil and fertilizers to Cuba. And Cuba had a similar problem. But Cuba solved the problem through urban agriculture. So instead of urban people going to the villages and not knowing how to cut the rice and standing up, it solved the problem in a way by transforming agriculture into a completely different system of agriculture to which we're all unfamiliar with in many ways, and the transportation in certain ways. So all I'm saying is that we need to have some areas of hope. A set of completely hopeless people cannot create a transformed world. So we need to pick at hope. What are those hopes that we need to do? I mean, for example, can we have a sustainable world without downgrading capitalism? Capitalism has to be downgraded. I mean, to me, that's a given. Otherwise, how can we talk about a transformed, sustainable world? But what would be the form of that downgrading or transformation is the challenge, to my mind, that is to do. And I would also say that when we say this change and transformation, aren't they inherent already? I'm reminded of this massive survey in Europe, Western Europe, of about 2.5 million people, asking them the question about their well-being. What are the constituents of their well-being? And more wealth was at number 4. Adding more wealth was at number 4. What was at number 1? Having family and friends. A non-monetized issue, which doesn't require monetization. It was number 1. Adding more wealth or so. What was number 2? A sense of adventure. A whole lot of sense of adventure doesn't require money. Of course, sense of adventure can be tourism that requires a lot of burning fossil fuel and forests by air travel. But a lot of adventure can be non-monetized. And this is Western Europe. And economists like Pigo, long time ago said that you require a basic minimum wealth to get certain standards of education, health, and so on. But beyond a point, when you add more wealth, it doesn't lead to higher happiness. And we are in very difficult questions, and let's confront that question. Is the Bhutanese individual living under a monarchy with no industry less happy than the 1% US obscene, wealthy, affluent idiot? Can we compare their happiness? I don't know how you can decide that. A country which says, we don't want GDP as a measure, we want gross national happiness as a measure. And we'll create an index of how to measure gross national happiness of all individuals. So how do you compare these? And I'm posing this as very difficult questions, very fuzzy questions. Very economists will of course hate it. What the hell are you talking about? I think some Marxists will also hate it. So, but the question is that we are dealing with a complex world. We are dealing with complex experiences, from North Korea to Bhutan to Cuba. And in all of them are inherent notions of happiness, well-being, which is the ultimate that we want, along with. And as I said, and I want that as a final comment, the problems of debt, the problems of unemployment are going to pale into insignificance as 1 billion people and farmers are going to be devastated by climate change. We will forget about these as problems. The kind of problems that are in store for us in the next 50 years are unimaginable. Therefore, there is a certain urgency to these questions. But obviously, it only means that these are agendas for the next forum, because we're coming to an end of this forum. I know the organizers will have the last word, but from us sitting here in this last session, can I say that how indebted we are to Renmin University and Lingnan University, Two universities putting together a forum like this is unbelievable. I would have thought that social movements and NGOs would do that. But it is too, that's an answer to the question that Tungyu used. Of course, education we need to pay attention to. But the hope is that Renmins and Lingnans can do forums like this, which is a sense of hope that universities can do things like this. So to both of them, of course, all the people in the Department of Cultural Studies, the administration of Lingnan and Renmin, which has given 3 years budget together to get us where we are, to the individuals involved who were planning to sell their property in order to have this forum. Hopefully they have saved themselves from divesting of their properties to do that. So therefore, Tuen and Kinchi, we are completely, well, I shouldn't say indebted after talking about debt for 3 days. We should say that we are with them in a very human and positive way. But let's not forget, probably dozens of volunteers. I don't think they're all here. Some of them are here. Dozens of volunteers, including the volunteer interpreters and people all over. So can we stand up and clap for them, please? Can we all stand up? And so all of them will. And let's also tell Wen and Kinchi, when you do the next forum, whenever you are doing, please draw